have been running for a long time now. Not the healthy kind where you wake up at 5 a.m. and hit the pavement. The kind where you check every shadow twice, sleep with your bags packed, know every entry and exit point, and memorize the Greyhound schedule for every town you pass through. The kind where you know exactly how long it takes to get from your bed to the door. 3 seconds if you don't grab your shoes, 5 if you do. The kind of running that is accompanied by nightmares every night. Waking to imagine sounds that makes your spine go liquid and your legs remember how to move before your brain does. I'm telling this story now because it's time that there is some type of account for the past 8 years of my life. Maybe if this ends up in the hands of the right person, then maybe it can do some good for someone. That is my only hope. Because it's clear to me now, my days of running are over. It all began for me at a house, sat at the edge of a neighborhood, as if it was trying not to be noticed. 3 stories of faded yellow siding with a wraparound porch that had seen better decades. Most people drove past without realizing what it was. Just another big old house in a neighborhood full of them. But for 9 people, it was home. I won't name the place or the town, and anyone I discuss will be by first name only. The families of those involved don't need conspiracy theorists showing up at their doors. They've suffered enough. I'd been working there for about 11 months when I pulled that overnight shift in October. At the time, I was pursuing my master's degree in folklore studies during the day, working nights for the extra pay and quiet hours to study, spending my nights caring for the developmentally disabled while my days were filled with studying myths, legends, and the things people claimed went bump in the night. The house had 9 residents, each with their own challenges, their own needs, and their own stories. I need to tell you about them because they were people. Real people who deserved better than to be erased. Jeremy and Jackson were twins, 49 years old, sharing a room decorated like they were 10. Bunk beds, superhero posters, arguments about who got the top bunk. Jeremy always won. 4 minutes older, he'd remind his brother. Mikey, late 50s, lived for professional wrestling. He'd narrate entire matches to himself, complete with commentary. "Oh my God, it's Mikey from the top rope!" Lucas, 43, drew constantly, the same pictures over and over. Houses with families, everyone holding hands, big yellow suns with smiley faces. Pictures of the life he never had. Marcus, 29, had to count and organize everything. 22 steps from his bed to the bathroom, 41 to the kitchen. If you moved anything in his room even an inch, he'd know. Carrie, 48, never went anywhere without her 3 baby dolls. She'd sing to them, feed them, and put them to bed. Touch one without permission, and she'd scream like you were killing her child. Robert, 38, barely spoke. Just rocked back and forth, humming the same 4 notes. I'd written them down once, trying to figure out the melody. Never did. Tanya, 52, packed her backpack every morning, certain her mother was coming to pick her up from school. "She's just running late," she'd say. Every day for who knows how many years. And then there was Josie, 20 years old, no obvious disability, just broken. I was told that when she was 15, she survived a major hurricane that swallowed her small Florida town. Unfortunately, her parents didn't survive. She moved out of Florida to live with her grandmother, who ended up passing away only a couple of months later. She didn't speak for years afterward. Even when I knew her, she'd only say a few words a week, and only to certain people. I was one of them, though I never knew why. She'd sit by the window in the common room for hours, watching the street like she was waiting for something. Sometimes she'd touch the glass and whisper words I couldn't make out. The other staff said she'd been doing it ever since she arrived there a couple of years ago. That particular night, a severe storm was moving in. The weather service had been warning about it since the day before. High winds, torrential rain, and possible tornadoes. I'd spent the first part of my shift securing everything, checking flashlights, and making sure emergency supplies were ready. By midnight, the storm had hit hard. Rain hammering the windows, wind howling around the corners of the old house. The residents were restless. Storms always made them anxious. I could hear Mikey talking to himself, Robert's humming getting louder, Carrie singing to her dolls. At 2:13 a.m., the power went out. No flicker, no surge, just sudden, complete darkness. The emergency lights should have kicked in. They didn't. The backup generator we tested monthly stayed silent. That's when I heard it. A howl that didn't come from the wind. Lower, deeper. Something that vibrated in your bones and made every evolutionary alarm in your body scream run. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. Above, below, and all around the house. The sound rattled the whole house. Some of the residents started crying out in the darkness. I grabbed a flashlight and ran to check on them, but the beam seemed weak, like the darkness was actively fighting it. Then the howl came again, and with it, silence. The storm stopped. Not gradually, instantly. No rain, no wind, nothing. The kind of silence that makes you realize how loud the world usually is. I was trying to gather everyone into the common room when the first window exploded. What came through that window, well, was something we are told our whole lives doesn't exist. There were these huge, massive, black dogs, about 6 of them. They stood 5 feet at the shoulder, their bodies seeming to shift and writhe, muscles pulsating, made of darkness so complete it hurt to look at. Their eyes glowed red, not reflecting light but generating it. Where their paws touched the floor, frost spread in perfect circles despite the warmth of the house. The folklore switched on like a light in my head. Black dogs, church grims, bar guests. Every culture described the same phenomenon, the same lore. They show up in storms, at crossroads, around the dying, when a debt comes due. I'd studied them across Germanic, Greek, Celtic, Chinese, Latin American, and Japanese traditions. Call them what you want. I knew the word that fit when I saw them. Hellhounds. They were hellhounds. They weren't supposed to be real. They swept the room with purpose, heads low, shoulders rolling, not animals, but soldiers on orders. Josie pressed into me, trembling, but she wasn't crying. There was no time to think or to formulate a plan. I yanked the coat closet behind us open, pulled her in, and flattened us against cedar and drywall. The bifold kissed shut. Through the slats of the door, the room strobed past in thin frames. Through the slats, the carnage played out for us. Like an 8mm film, flicker, scratch, but in stereo. The first one took Jeremy, just bit down into his shoulder and shook him like a rag doll. His screaming was cut short as it dragged him toward the window. Jackson lunged for his brother, crying out. The hound pivoted and drove a low shoulder through him, pure weight, a silent battering ram, smashing him into the wall. Jackson tried to crawl away. The beast hooked a paw behind his calf and reeled him back. It took them both. One clamped in its jaws, the other dragged by a leg, bending at angles no leg should, disappearing into the night. Mikey tried to fight, grabbed a chair and swung it at the second hound. The chair shattered on impact. The hound grabbed him by the throat, shook him until he went limp, then dragged him into the darkness. I could hear him choking, trying to breathe, trying to scream. They were violent, vicious. This wasn't collection, it was hunting. Marcus ran, but his compulsion betrayed him. Even in terror, he had to count his steps. The hound let him run his pattern once, twice, and then on the third repetition, it was waiting. It grabbed him mid-stride, teeth sinking into his side. His scream was the worst. Not just pain, but the frustration of his pattern being broken. The hound thrashed its head, and Marcus went quiet. Carrie tried to hide behind the couch, clutching her dolls. The hound flipped the entire couch with one motion, sending her sprawling. Her dolls scattered, and she crawled after them, even as the hound's teeth found her leg. She was still reaching for her babies as it dragged her away. Her leg partially separating from her body, her screams following her into the darkness. Lucas had his drawings clutched to his chest when they found him. The hound tore through them to get to him, paper floating down like snow. He didn't even scream, just made this small, hurt whimper, like a child who'd skinned their knee. The hound grabbed him by the arm, and I heard the bone snap from across the room. Robert stood perfectly still, not rocking for the first time I'd ever seen. A hound approached him slowly, and Robert held out his hand like he was greeting a normal dog. It bit his hand off at the wrist. Robert looked at the stump, confused, before the hound took him by the neck, crushing it, and dragged him away. Tanya was saying, "My mom's coming," over and over as a hound circled her. "She's coming to get me, she's just late." The hound grabbed her backpack first, tearing it apart, scattering her carefully packed things. Then it took her by the hair, dragging her backward as she still reached for her ruined bag. Each one was dragged out into the darkness beyond the windows. Not clean, not quick, just violent, terrible, and purposeful. The sounds they made, their screams. I can't forget the sounds. None of them understood what was happening to them or why. That left just me and Josie, hiding quietly, knowing the inevitable end was upon us. "I knew they'd come back," she said. "What?" "The red-eyed black dogs. They took my parents." She paused, like she was transported back in time. When a hurricane hit our little town in Florida, our little country house, middle of nowhere. Her voice was steady, like she was seeing all over again in her mind. I heard the howl first, then my father looked out the window and said, "They found me." Just like that, not surprised or scared, like he'd been expecting it. More shapes were moving outside now, red eyes multiplying in the darkness. They surrounded our house, came through the windows, the doors, tore my parents apart. I watched from the crawl space under the house, watched them get carried off in pieces. I've been waiting for them to come back. Josie, once they have your scent, they always come back. Maybe in days, weeks, years, but they come. I'm tired of waiting, tired of the dread. She turned to me. But they don't have your scent, not yet. Just then, a massive hellhound stepped through the ruined window. Larger, seemingly older than the others, scarred, with eyes that held terrible intelligence. If I go now, they'll leave. The hunt will be complete. You'll survive. I'm tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of pretending those people out there can keep me safe. Don't. Stay here and keep hiding, she said. Don't come out until the storm returns. Don't tell anyone the truth. They won't believe you, and if they do, they'll lock you up. She looked back one more time. Don't let them get your scent. She opened the closet and stepped out. I reached out to grab her, but she closed the door behind her. She walked to the center of the room and stood and awaited her fate. 2 hounds flanked her, their teeth finding her arms, not gently, but possessively. She didn't scream. She was the only one who didn't scream. They dragged her backward into the darkness, and she kept her eyes on mine until she vanished into that impossible black. The howl that followed shook the entire house. Then, Like someone had thrown a switch, the storm returned. Rain hammered through the broken windows. Wind screamed through the house. I huddled in a closet as the house was torn apart around me. By the storm or the hounds, I couldn't tell. I stayed there until dawn, until the storm finally passed. When I emerged, the neighborhood looked like a war zone. Trees down everywhere, power lines sparking, houses damaged. The group home was destroyed, but to anyone looking, it was just storm damage, bad storm damage, but nothing supernatural. Some neighbors helped me call for help. Emergency services arrived within the hour. Police, paramedics, and search and rescue. 9 people missing, no bodies, no blood, just destruction that everyone assumed was from the storm. Because of Josie, I knew better than to tell the truth. So I stuck to a simple story. The storm hit, the house was damaged, and in the chaos and darkness, I lost track of the residents. Maybe they wandered off, confused and scared. Maybe they were swept away by flash flooding. I didn't know. I just didn't know. They questioned me for days, searched for weeks. But with half the county disaster declared, resources were stretched thin. Eventually, it became just another tragedy from the storm. 9 vulnerable adults, lost in the chaos, presumed dead. The group home permanently closed. I left town the day they cleared me, and I've been running ever since. See, Josie was wrong about one thing. They did have my scent. Not directly, but from being there, from witnessing it. That marks you. And storms are when the barriers get thin, when they can come through. I've learned to watch the weather obsessively. When storms are coming, I run. I've had close calls, hearing that howl in the distance during a lightning storm in Tulsa, or seeing red eyes in my rearview mirror during a blizzard in Denver. But I have always managed to stay ahead of them so far. I came to New Orleans 2 months ago. Good construction work, cash pay, no questions asked. I was working as a roofer, great money for dangerous work. 3 days ago, I slipped, fell off a roof, hit a ladder on the way down, then the ground. 4 broken ribs, a bruised lung, and the hospital wanted to keep me for observation. I'd been in and out of consciousness from the pain meds they were giving me. When I woke up properly, the TV in my room was showing evacuation orders for the city of New Orleans. Hurricane Katrina, a Category 5, is heading straight for New Orleans. The date at the bottom of the screen read Sunday, August 28, 2005. Panic flooded my body. I checked myself out against medical advice. I could barely breathe, could barely walk, definitely shouldn't have been walking. But I had to get out. I made it to the bus station, ribs screaming with every step. I got there in time to be informed that the last bus had left 2 hours before I arrived. At this point, the highways were abandoned parking lots. Airports were closed. The train station was empty, and taking a boat was out of the question. The entire city was paralyzed, bracing for a monster hurricane, and I was trapped in it. I hobbled out of the bus depot, looking for somewhere to hold up. I was lucky enough to find this place, a maintenance room on the 6th level in a parking garage. Sturdy concrete, small enough to defend. I pulled out my notebook and started writing this as the storm started rolling in. I need someone to know the truth, to know my story. It's now early, a little after 3 a.m. in the morning. I guess that makes this Monday, August 29th, 2005. The power's been out for an hour. Katrina is tearing the world apart outside. Worse than that night on October 14th, 1997, when the hellhounds first came. Worse than anything I've ever known. And beneath the howl of wind and hammering rain, I think I hear it. Everything just went quiet. The sound of the hurricane is gone. Wait, what's that? They're here. After 8 long years, they've finally caught up. Or maybe this was always the plan. Maybe Katrina isn't just a hurricane. Maybe it's just another terrible, destructive vehicle for what they do. How many people will go missing because of those beasts, only to have their disappearance blamed on the storm? I can hear them outside somewhere right now, claws on concrete, that breathing that isn't quite breathing. I know what happened to the others. I know what's going to happen to me. But someone needs to know the truth. Someone needs to understand that there are things that hunt in the storms, things that take people, things that have been doing this for longer than we've had words for darkness and evil. The storms hides and masks the destruction and the carnage they bring. Josie was brave. When I was putting together the connection between the hellhounds and major storms, I discovered that the hurricane that Josie had survived, the one that took her parents, was Hurricane Andrew in 1992. When they came for her again, she chose her fate to save me and gave me 8 more years. The others, Jeremy, Jackson, Mikey, Lucas, Marcus, Carrie, Robert, Tanya, didn't choose their fate, but they mattered. They were people, and they were taken by an ancient evil. The howling is getting closer. Multiple sources now. They're coming up the garage levels. If anyone finds this, don't waste your time looking for me. I'm lost to the darkness, and there isn't anything anyone can do for me. Once they have your scent, what comes next is inevitable. Whatever you do, don't let them get your scent. If they do, when the storm comes and the power dies, when the world goes quiet, and that silence is broken with an unearthly howl, it's already too late, but you have to try to run anyway. Run far, run fast. Something huge just bumped into the door. I can hear powerful sniffing coming from the other side of the door. Something just started growling. I can feel the growling slowly start to rise and vibrate through the door. Low, patient, vibrating through the panel, the hinges, through my broken ribs. They're here. I am out of time. I guess you can't run from fate forever. To Josie, I'm sorry. I failed you. I'm sorry I couldn't run long enough or far enough. But maybe I will get to see you again. Forever in your debt. Joshua.
Editor's note. This transcript was recovered from a notebook sealed in a plastic bag. It was found behind a conduit in a maintenance room in a New Orleans parking garage in the months following Hurricane Katrina. The author was never identified, and his fate is unknown.